because I'm doing just the things I really like to do now. Whereas when I ran an entire business, there were a lot of things I didn't enjoy doing. And so it's allowed me to segment out into those distinct areas. And I think it's made me a better public speaker. I think it's made me better at event planning because I can focus like the blinders on just those things. And I don't think I could do all of that.
Welcome to Business Technicalities. Me and Sean have Tom Watson here, so it'll be confusing when Sean says Tom and we both say yes.
I know. I was already thinking that. Like, do I do the full name? Do I use like cute, like, this is your new nickname? I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, Sean probably wants to call him Wolverine, and it's this actually to give a little context. There was an event, and it was around Halloween, and Tom had dressed up as Wolverine, and it just, you know, the uncanny. It was one of the best Wolverine setups I had seen. So me and Sean said, and when Sean said we're going to interview Tom Watts, I said the Wolverine guy. I mean, I know
Yeah.
Tom more than a Wolverine guy. He's actually got an interesting career, working a lot of this enterprise stuff. Currently working at Titan HQ in charge of sales team. Is that correct? Essentially, what exactly is the title?
I'm channel chief over there, so I'm
Okay,
kind of I'm in marketing, but I interface closely with sales, and we have a whole U.S. sales team now here in Shelton, Connecticut. Well, I'm in Northern Virginia. We have a Shelton, Connecticut office, and the company is an Irish-based cybersecurity company.
that's awesome. The Me and
So
you've
is
talked a
Guinness,
couple times. So you've got a lot of experience in sales.
very important question before
Oh,
you go on. So does that mean that there's Guinness on tap
ooh,
since it's an
Oh,
Irish?
there seemed to be a lot of Guinness drinking when I was up there about a month ago. That's for
I,
sure.
I
Yeah, and
priorities.
yeah,
yeah, no,
uh,
that's an important question because that's if you work, it's like on a resume. Do you like Guinness? It's like this is the deal breaker, or then you're going to work here.
It's a prereq. So Tom, thanks, Tom Watson. Thanks for being on, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate having you.
thanks, John, and I appreciate it. It's great. Loving this. We've talked about it for a while, and Sean, that's a really cool kind of a mural behind you on the wall there.
Cloud.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Cloud Cafe. So I'm actually working out of the office today. Usually I'm at home, so I'm actually up in our Pittsburgh office, which was once Continuum, that obviously ConnectWise acquired. So really cool office space. Been here a handful of times. It's about 20 minutes from my house, but because of travel, it's sometimes impossible to get here. And speaking of travel, Tom, let's talk about you seriously because you've had the whole concept behind business technicalities is that everybody learns from each other, right? And there's people with all these experiences, and you and are a very extremely exceptional kind of person within our space because you're not the owners of the company. You go into companies and help them grow. But you own your own business, and they task you out, right? It's
Well, I
not.
do. I do. So my background goes back. I owned an MSP in the Washington D.C. area. Started it in 2000 and exited it in 2015. Had a
Mhm.
successful exit, and then I could have took a couple years off. And actually, in light of some of the questions you told me about, like I realized in that time off, which was about 2.5 years, that I had kind of lost a piece of my identity, the channel and my MSP and all my friends in it. And when I sold that business, a lot of that connectivity was gone. So you sent me this question, it's like, what is your currency? Well, my currency is this community, is people like us, is interacting. And fortunately, really good friends that were on the vendor side, actually Adam Slutskin and Matt Nacktrap, and they pulled me over to eFolder for an kind of evangelist role there. And it's been great. I'm 5 years back in the channel, but on the vendor side. I then went to Ninja One for a couple years, and now I'm at Titan HQ. I had a big desire to work in cybersecurity, and really excited to be over here at Titan. I'm 2 months in and doing all kinds of great travel for them on the road at trade shows and webinars, and just really appreciate this opportunity coming on here with you guys.
I think
Absolutely.
it's really important too that the best players in this market that know how to run a channel program are because they were on the other side. You
Yeah,
can tell when someone's putting a channel program together, you can tell, oh, they did not hire someone that's ever been on the MSP side. Like we all hate this program and you just know it, but there's you had experience you had, was it 18 years you had your MSP, you know what's needed. You know what needs to be
Yeah.
done, the process. The technology can change all you want, but there's still channel partner programs and process that are in place. Just insert name of product, but then the channel partner around it should be a certain way. And you can put it down in a book, but it's still not the same as having lived it. And then you can come on the other side easily, so to speak, as your role in some ways like a consultant, but you understand how that program needs to be run to, be profitable for the vendor, but also be easy to deal with for the MSP.
Well, Tom and Sean, one of the things I really like about it is when I interact with MSP owners in the channel, it's more like I'm still an MSP. They talk to me that way. I have those discussions with them. I'm not a salesperson. I mean, I come on these kind of things. I do webinars for Titan. I run their marketing portal that MSPs can use. I do speaking on the road, but I don't directly pitch you on, hey, you need to buy this and why, and try to say something. And that's the great thing I like about these roles, because I'm able to give value add and a level of transparency to MSPs and give them something to help grow their businesses. But I don't have to sit there and expect a whole bunch from them. That seems to come in goodwill. And it's brought me to you guys. I mean, I bought you guys doing stuff for Ninja One,
Yep.
and now we're here together doing it over here.
Well, I would say, to add to, you're not a salesperson, and everything I've ever seen of you, and I saw you publicly a lot. Obviously, you've been involved in lots of webinars. Um, you always talk about business needs at large. You talk about what solutions for to be effective in a business. Has nothing to do with specific. You should use this vendor, this hardware, this software. You don't say those things. You talk about what problem are you trying to solve, and here's where you should go with it. And that's it. Has nothing to do with the actual specifics. I've never once heard you pitch, even when you were with Ninja doing stuff. You never pitched Ninja anywhere that I ever heard you do. I mean, and if you did, I missed it. So I think that makes you a trusted advisor more than anything else.
Yeah, it is. It's funny because I was just at Kaseya Connect IT, and we had a really good showing for Titan. And I do pitch a little product at the booth, but I usually transition after about a minute of that into, let me tell you about our partner program, what we can do to help you grow your business. That's my big thing. I mean, I tell a lot of people, the thing I've really learned being on the vendor side is I thought I knew a little bit about marketing, and then I got to Ninja, and I learned a lot there. And now most of what I talk about is, let's talk about what you guys are doing. We're trying to sell you products. Everyone's trying to give you these pieces, and you've got to fit these things together into a bundle, and then you've got to price it accordingly. And I can help you with that. But then, how do you actually get the word out there and make this marketable to your market? And that's where I like to focus on with MSPs.
That's a great segue to something here. One thing that Tom and I talked about, Tom Lawrence, um, and this, Tom, wants it to be a fact. One thing we want to try to help people with is, how do they generate more leads to get revenue? Because a lot of MSPs don't know how to do that. So, you know, consider now you've been on both sides of the house. As MSP, you did well. What's some advice you would give somebody on marketing, a marketing tip of some sort?
The biggest thing that I found is that when you have an MSP, you're very busy running operations, closing deals, that kind of project management, sourcing things. And what it tends to be is one-off marketing. So what happens is, you're like, okay, we're going to do a webinar, and you maybe only put one email out there, not enough, or you don't post enough about it, or you don't have, that webinar is not part of a series. And
Mm-hmm.
what I try to teach, the biggest thing is, if you're going to go into it, bring in some help or hire someone for it or service, and you need to do it as a campaign. You need to do something that has some legs behind it. Like, I noticed the things that Tom, that you've been doing for years. Now, Sean, you guys are doing together. It's not one off. Everything's a series. And like, come
Mm-hmm.
and see us again. And it's one after another. And you've got to build that to get an audience. You've got to build something where there's value repeatedly and makes it a reason for them to come back. And then there's word of mouth that goes along with that. But if you do something one time, one webinar a year, one lunch or whatever, don't expect a lot. Don't enter it unless you're going to do it as a campaign and you're going to make it repeatable.
I think it's good advice, because it's not just, I had this thing, and it became an annual thing for me, a speaking engagement called Protecting the Digital You, very generically named. And it was about tips for businesses. I worked through the banks and stuff like that to get in front of people. And it was this thing I did every year, or sometimes twice a year, that was how to do protection services, and I would get an audience for it, and lunch was catered, things like that. It's a repeatable campaign, and because you're always thinking about the long game. If you're going to plan to be in business a long time, well, your campaigns also have to run for a long time.
Right.
We actually talked even on the last call a little bit about sales cycles being long. That's just the nature of it. Enterprise sales cycles could be as much as a year plus, but even an MSP sales cycle, there's a lot of touch points along the way. So you're right, that campaign,
Yep.
you're constantly out there because you have to be there when they feel the pain point too of, ooh, the people that we do use for IT are not doing their job today or the last couple weeks. And the next thing you know, they see you again in that campaign.
Yep. That's no fair enough. And actually, Tom Lawrence and I were talking yesterday with Jennifer Bloom about this, about how to get better at speaking on camera and whatnot. And Tom said, well, after 5 years and 1,500 videos, and so you kind of get
Exactly.
better, right? You get rid of the filler words, and so case in point is that I believe in consistent quality messaging, right? You're absolutely right, Tom Watson. It's kind of like treat it like a story. When you tell a story, last time I checked, when I read a book, there's chapters, there's pages, there's chapters, and it eventually ends. And if it becomes a trilogy, then obviously there's a lead into the next book. But I think a lot of times you see MSPs where they think they're going to make one video, make one stop,
Yeah,
and do one thing only. Like, okay, now what? And it's like they're waiting for the magic to happen. There's no magic in once. You have to create your own and be persistent. So totally agree.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your journey a little bit because I think it's interesting. MSP owner that switches over to the vendor side. What made you sell your MSP?
I got 15 years in, and I was just like, I think I had really good management in place by then. I was able to go on vacations. I was able to do it. I kind of want to do something else. I
Fair
wanted,
enough.
I pretty much was, at a point where I was like, yeah, there's some shifts going on in here. The market's starting to open up to sell these things. So let's look at something else. I'd already thought of the vendor side. I wasn't sure if I was going to go there, but I knew I wanted a couple of years off, and so it was the right opportunity. Someone came knocking, and so I went for it, and no regrets. I love that time, but it was time to move on, and it was the vendor side's very good. And I had been told, I mean, something that I had learned very early. You touched on public speaking. I learned that early on that I was fairly good at it, and that I was getting invitations already to the Chamber of Commerce and other groups. So I was like, wow, I could probably do something with that. And that became, of course, that can be very important in these channel chief roles on the vendor side, because that's what you're doing. You're all front facing. I'm gonna tell you, Sean, you're in a similar role where you are, and and Tom, you do a ton of speaking. You're one of the people that's heavy on the tech that was able to transition over to that. And
Yeah.
look what it
Absolutely.
does. I mean, we all go to your YouTube channel for information. So I mean, it's obviously working.
I don't, Tom. I don't go to YouTube channel for information. I just text you and said,
Yeah. Sean text me.
I was like, what is this? Tell me what this is. What do I know about it? What do I need to know about it? I'm like this. He has like 7,000 videos. So where do I begin? Like, I don't know what to do.
Well, and they're mostly deeply technical. So I always remind people that have a YouTube channel, I always remind them, it may not be the right one for you to watch unless you're into the same, deeper technical topics. But I do have a question that I'm wondering. So you mentioned twice you took a little bit of time off. What did you do? What before you sold, you're happy, there's some money in the bank.
Yeah, on
What
your
you did?
sabbatical. Yeah,
Yeah.
what's your
Oh yeah,
sabbatical?
this is pretty good. I took a couple months, and then that summer of 2015, I took a trip to Europe, and I had a one-way ticket to Paris, Charles de Gaulle Airport, and I had a rail pass, and I could go anywhere in Europe. And I just started going to different cities, and I visited, um, I think it was like 11 countries in 4 months. And I would just
Nice.
stay in a place. I would just stay in a place until I had enough, and then I just go down to the rail station with the rail pass and literally look at the options
Yeah,
and shows what and did it for 4 months. It was an amazing trip. And
that's
so
awesome.
yeah, it was pretty great. Now I'll tell you what, when I came back from that, the transition from going nomadic like that to being back home was brutal. I mean, it was like you were so restless, you felt like you needed to get up and leave. And that was a really weird time when I came back, but
Well, that's
it was yeah.
okay. So you went from 15 years of consistency, process discipline, to nomadic and chaos, which is
I did.
totally, which is not you, by the way. Obviously, you're a very disciplined guy.
But
You're
yeah,
very structured.
I'll tell you what, I had kind of a miniature version of this a few weeks ago. So I've been at Titan for a month, and I had to fly to Galway, where headquarters is, and lead a partner advisory board. After I've been there I was there for 3 nights. Then I had to fly. Of course, my first flight got canceled. Of course,
Yeah.
to Newark, and then I got there, of course, and then I came back 3 days later, and then my onward flight going to Fort Lauderdale was canceled. So United had put me up for a night in Newark. Then I get to Fort Lauderdale for my cousin's 50th birthday party. I'm there for 18 hours because I decided to leave early to head to Vegas for Kaseya because I was worried about all the flights getting canceled. But it turns out I find out at the airport, oh, they're like, oh no, we never cancel flights to Vegas. That's just everywhere else because they're subsidized in some way. So I got there a day early. I'm there for 4 nights. Then I went to Los Angeles for 2 days to clear the storage unit I had. So I did 13 days, 4 locations, 8 flights, 3 flight cancellations, 1 flight delay, and I got COVID. So
You were nomadic for a little while.
that was I got back and I was like, it was funny because I was sick as hell, but I didn't even, I was so restless I didn't want to be home. So that was like
That's
a miniature version of
awesome.
that.
So
I'm having trouble myself breaking routines, and it's like I always get. I had a good conversation with friends that did that. They took a week off and drove their motorcycles cross country, and I want to do that. And I'm like, but boy, I'm so ritualistic on my things I do. I'm like, that's got to be harder. Like, yeah, they said 2 weeks across country. They said you come home like, who are you people at this house? Like,
that's
I did
yeah.
it. I did it with just a carry on too. Just a
oh boy.
carry on, a roller bag. And Sean, I got 5 workouts in that 13 days
Oh,
somehow.
you still had some of your routines then.
See, I just say discipline and structure. That's the problem. Like, so I find that to be a challenge too. When I travel a lot, the workout regimen suffers. Um, it's especially time zone changes, and like
Yeah.
there, because I go to the gym at the same time every day,
Okay.
and I have to. No, I have to, because it's part of my regimen. If it changes or something changes, it's a problem. And every time I go on a work trip, I take my workout stuff. Do I ever pull it out? No.
I got
It's just
2 really good hacks for this. So the first is leading up to a trip. Like I got another one coming up soon for Build It and CompTIA.
yeah.
But leading up to it, the 3 days before I go on the trip, I go to the gym every day and just really crush it 3 days in a row. So I'm already prepared. Then, whenever possible, and this will happen for both those trips, I fly in on the earliest flight possible to the location. I go from the airport, usually to a local Gold's Gym or other kind of hardcore gym, before I go to the hotel. I get a workout in my first day on the
That's
ground at the
smart.
place. Then I go check in. So by the time I'm in there, I've got 4 days of working out behind me.
That way
So
you can take 2 days off or
I,
3 days off.
usually
Yep.
just take the rest of the time off. No stress. So that has worked out pretty well for me.
I like that. That's a good idea. I like that, except for I don't want to go look for a Gold's Gym. I think I want to, and I try to do the hotels. The hotel gyms are awful. They really
I know
are.
they're terrible. Yeah.
They are. But now my workout regimen has changed because I can't do a lot of free weights because I have my shoulder surgery right now. So I do a lot of cable work. So as long as they have cables,
Those guns are looking pretty good though, man.
well,
I
it's
saw
the
that.
tattoos. I had them
Yeah.
tattoo muscles on me, so it looks like I got muscles.
Oh,
I should do that.
you're looking pretty jacked.
I don't know, man. Thank you. I'll take it. So back to you. Enough about my my Greek physique.
Yeah.
The transition you made from MSP over to vendor, again, because actually the very first conversation Tom Lawrence and I had for this show, for this series, was how he's an entrepreneur and I'm an entrepreneur. I feel
Yeah.
like you went from I feel like you went from entrepreneur to intrapreneur also, because
Yeah, I do.
you own. So how'd that work out for you?
Yeah, it's worked out really well. I guess what I like about it is I handled so many different variables owning an MSP, and just managing all the people and then all the processes and everything. And I still have another business on the side, and I actually that actually is the vehicle I use to work with the vendors I do.
Hmm.
I do it rather as a contract because that just is more comfortable for me from the entrepreneur perspective. A contract with a set of deliverables as opposed to FTE. And there's no real difference. I mean, I have the same title and role, but it works out
Right.
well. I really like having the other pieces that are doing things for me, so it's more segmented out. Like Tom, you're going to events, you're planning for events, and you order all the swag. I mean, like, and I have like those things to do, and you go on webinars and stuff like that. Where and I don't have to deal with other things. And so I think it's been really good for me on that because I like that focus because I'm doing just the things I really like to do now. Whereas when I ran an entire business, there were a lot of things I didn't enjoy doing. And so it's allowed me
Sure.
to segment out into those distinct areas. And I think it's made me a better public speaker. I think it's made me better at event planning because I can focus like the blinders on just those things. And I don't think I could do all of that at once. It kind of goes into that thing like I was talking about when you own an MSP, how hard it is to be good at marketing because it's out of the wheelhouse. It's sitting over here.
Right.
And so I can be
I
good at
couldn't agree
marketing.
more too. I couldn't agree more. And we talked to Jennifer Bleen yesterday about this, and the reason why I don't want to be an entrepreneur per se, I don't want all the other responsibilities. I don't
Yes.
I don't want to deal with it. I'd rather just I know what my skill set is. I know what I enjoy doing. So I don't want to worry about the accounting aspect, for instance. I don't
You're
want
right.
to do a P&L. I don't want. I've done that. I hated it. I despised it. I don't. I like living in unicorn world. Like I don't want to see what the bills are. I know there's a cost. I just don't know what that is. You
Yeah,
know.
I can agree as the person still running a business right now. Well, technically, two of them with the YouTube channel and the other business and
Oh
all
yeah.
the things around it. I still don't have a joy in P&L. So
No, it's
I
horrible,
understand.
right?
Like, I'm really thinking, "Tom, okay, how much you sell it for? Go 2 year? Oh, yeah, 4 months in Europe. That sounds good."
That
No
sounds
response.
great.
Just, like, buy a one-way ticket and bounce around on trains.
I think it's
This
why he
is
asked you the question, Tom, is like,
yeah,
what
it
do you do
is.
and how do
Yeah.
you feel?
I was
Because
just curious. I'm
he,
like, "What should I do with myself?"
he's
No,
gonna
I
take his
tell you what,
motorcycle and send it over.
guys, I'm doing it really well this year. So, I'm gonna be at IT Nation Connect, and I've got something big. I can't announce it yet, but I think I've got something big coming out of that I'm gonna do there. That's gonna be great. 2 days after IT Nation Connect, I'm going with a friend to Israel for 10 days. Then I'm coming back. I'm taking off most of December, and I'm gonna spend 3 weeks in Thailand. So I'm gonna go
Awesome.
nomadic again. Yeah.
My lord, I need to. So one day I'll sit down with you and learn how you do your process for having your own business to be outsourced by a company so you can take 6 months a year off. I want that in my life.
No, I'm no, I well, I'm taking like a month off, but I have no time off until then. So
Yeah.
I've been there for years, so yeah,
yeah,
I want your life still. So
yeah.
so now that you're doing this, you've been how many years now have you been in the vendor space? What's it been? 5
5 years.
years? 5 total
Yeah.
years? Okay. And during the course of that, well, and you mentioned before that you thought you knew marketing until you went to Ninja. What did you pick up from that?
Well,
What do you realize you didn't know and that you learned from that?
also got to credit Axiom with that too. I learned a great deal there. I was on the road a lot with them, but I
Sure.
think the biggest thing I've learned is that there's a lot of different ways to build your lead gen. And from the outside, many people look at it and go, okay, well, you got to go to a whole bunch of trade shows. You got to do a
Hmm.
whole bunch of buy a whole bunch of lists. And you don't. And like the best way to do it is to build these vehicles that you own that are your own series that you control, like, the production of them, you control how they're distributed, you control the marketing and advertising for them. I mean, it's a perfect example is what, you and Tom are doing here and Tom's other channel. I mean, these are, and they continue to pay you off forever. I mean, like the fact is, I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine Tom with that YouTube channel because that thing is cutting you checks, but it's also getting you clients and there's the
Yeah.
repository. So even things from years ago are still generating business for you. And that what the difference between that and going to a trade show where once that trade show's over, that you don't continue to gain something from that.
No,
Right.
You
that's
have
why
to
you're
go to the
signing up for
next
the
one.
next one, signing up for the next one.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
So I like these models of where you're producing a vehicle that's yours and it continues to drive business with you over time.
I would agree. I would agree. Well, and let's go back to what Tom just said about, when it's over, right? It's you have to stay and back to you said earlier, Tom Watsons, you got to stay very current in people's
Yes.
minds. How do you stay current in their minds? You have to continuously produce content on a regular basis with a certain, there has to be a certain frequency of things. They should, so what happens in between shows? What happens in between, if you're an MSP, what happens in between local chamber of commerce events? What are you doing? And there's all these different networking groups that you can get in. And yes, every MSP says networking events, all they have are people trying to sell insurance. Everybody's, yeah, okay. But they also, but they are selling insurance, but guess what? They probably need IT stuff. I'm not saying you need to sell to them, but they also have a lot of friends too, and you have to stay consistent. And and Tom Watson, you said it really well. There's not one way to do any lead generation. There's not one way. There's like 1,000.
Yeah, you want multiple ways. I look at a lot of this, and that's a lot of things I'm working on at Titan. We have a partner marketing portal, so trying to make it so partners are closer to us because we're helping them with their marketing. And then the next thing is we're building 2 webinar series, including one called MSP Roundtable. We're doing the first one next week. And then one of the other things that we're doing is I wrote a book recently called Managed Services Now, and I'm going to be putting that out later this year in a printed format, also in an ebook format. So as you can see there, that's my own asset. I brought it to Titan, and we're going to produce an entire ecosystem around it. And I like that. I like these ecosystems that are able to connect to our audience, the MSPs, provide them value, provide them business intelligence and process, and then also let them consume it in one of many different ways to make it available. And so that's my thing is you guys produce things like this, and it's great because I'm not talking to you on here, but I know I'll see you guys at upcoming shows. You're doing the same thing, and so a lot of it is modeled after what I've learned from guys like you, people at Ninja, other people I admire in the channel.
Nice, good. So
Yeah.
I
I
talked
would
to
say
Tom.
too, it's one of the things I've reminded people a lot, and I think I even said this even with Jennifer Blame. It's not the thing I do or anything I do; it's everything I do. It's a
Yeah.
combination of that, like a machine you build moving forward, of things that are going on, of creating this. I mean, I realized the other day, even my forums, which only more technical people usually know that I have forums, but I have 7,000 users sign up in my forums, and I get
What?
about
I had no
6,000
idea.
visitors a day. Yeah, and that's one more thing. They're almost always deeply technical. People are posting log files that are parsed. It goes, and it's one of those things. It's an extension because cool. There's YouTube comments to talk about something technical, but then I go a step further. But I maintain those for free. That's a complete free. Does it sometimes end up leads to my business? Yeah, I'm open about it. You can still, if you don't feel like parsing log files, I know a company you can hire. But you know what I mean. But there's
Wow.
still a lot of value I give away for it because I answer all the questions in there. And I was blown away when I looked. I don't always look at the signups when I seen it at 7,000. I broke the 7,000 mark on the users. I actually know that because my billing went up for it sends out emails and notifications, for forum changes. When I seen the spike going up, I'm like, that's that I'm paying a lot to spend that because it's all out of my own pockets. I don't charge for the forums, but it's one more thing. It's all part of that machine you build to keep providing value for the market and community. And there's a lot of value I get from it. I enjoy interacting like you do. It's fun interacting with all the people and doing this stuff and watching it get built.
Wow, you got a lot of vehicles. Every time we talk, Tom, there's something else. I'm like, wait, where's this one coming from?
Yeah.
And they're all established too. That's the amazing thing.
That
Yeah.
is right. How
It's
much work
taking
is that
years, but
though?
yeah.
Exactly. How much work is that? And people need to understand that. Like, how many times do you read people are like, I want to be an expert. I want to be the professional. I want to be Michael Jordan. And then all of a sudden, somebody puts a meme out 1,000 times. You have to take a shot. You miss one, or you miss all of them. These memes are, I mean, they're stereotypical, they're cliche, they're whatever, but they're really facts. How many people that are really good at what they do did it just out of natural ability? There's not one single famous person or established person that has a natural ability that just literally became ridiculously successful. It takes repetition.
Yeah.
You have a
Yeah,
talent, you have a like, but now you got to actually work on your craft.
and it's that
It's like
incremental
working out.
piece.
It's
Like,
repetitions.
yeah, that incremental piece, Tom. I mean, like, I'm sure it started small, and then you
Oh,
added another forum group, and you added and maybe you advertised some way. And
yep.
so it's that build up. I think it's just like you said, Sean, that repetition of a little piece all the time, and those touches and that consistency, and then people see that consistency, and then they buy into what you're doing. I think that's the big thing. I don't want to sign up for some content or anything like that unless it's regular and it's consistent. When I see like, oh,
Sure.
this guy put out, like, I think there was a podcast I was listening to today, some kind of weird history type one. And I was looking, I was like, oh, this is pretty good. But what's up with this year and a half gap? These people didn't put out a single podcast. Like, What is that? You know?
That's oh yeah. What that's kind of like when you look at somebody's LinkedIn profile, right? If you have
Yeah.
a gap in your LinkedIn profile for a year, what happened in that year? Why did you disappear? How do you disappear? I'm just curious. Like, how do you go from being the president of a company to see you 3 years later? Now, if you come back and say, I became a nomad in Europe, I'm kind of down with that. I appreciate that, and you're hired. But you have to show consistency and activity to stay in your space. And there's no set. I mean, maybe there's a set frequency of it, but too long of gaps need to be explained and accounted
Yeah,
for.
it's more about the repetition. So, like to touch on my forums, if people ask what it takes, and the cool thing is because things like forums gamify your life because there's stats, and those stats are Tom visits the forums every day, even when he's on vacation, at least one time a day. I go there to reply to any questions, especially any directed at me, and that's what built 7,000 people. Is that many people have gotten a reply over? I started them just about less than 3 years ago when I started them to build that. But it took 3 years. And think about that. That's a lot of days. Every day I go there, especially in the beginning, I was there like hourly. I had notifications popping up. Now I've got it to where I go there once a day, not as much, but it takes so much time to build that up to get there. People don't, they see the success at the end because that's when they heard about you when you hit some milestone, but they don't always think
Hmm.
about it. It took a lot of repetition, a lot to
But it's
dedication.
called a milestone. It's called a milestone. You have to get
Right.
all the steps it takes to get to the mile mark is the milestone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It goes back to what we were talking about, like in MSP, it's like you need to, I tell everyone I talk to in that world that, listen, if you want to put together some kind of marketing thing, maybe go get an intern or train an admin person up, something like that. But don't try to do it yourself unless you're really good at it. Like Tom, you're an outlier in being able to run that kind of technical business and make those kind of marketing touches daily. That's I don't think I could have done that. So don't be afraid if you're watching this and listen to me. If you identify what you can do and what you can't, what's going to get done, and if you're not going to be able to make those touches, from type of marketing, a lunch and learn series, a webinar series, a podcast, a forums you're building, whatever it is, regular LinkedIn posts, get someone else to do it for you. Because if you're not going to do it consistently with the repetition, you're never going to get the traction you want. And then you're going to look at it as time wasted down the road because it won't generate anything for you. So start with that plan of what it's actually going to take to make it work and generate business, and work back from that and remove yourself if you're unable to actually accomplish those pieces for yourself.
And I think something can be said for that because you can always hire like a Tom Watson to do this, as companies have. It's not the CEO producing all of it all the time.
Yeah,
It's a process you can hire for, and I think that's an important thing that
it
people
is.
need to get. It doesn't have to be the business owner getting out there and doing all this.
Well, I
I would
think this is
agree.
like you guys all know Dan Comas. We're on a lot of webinars with him. And I think he does really good videos I've seen on LinkedIn informing people of, informing his potential prospects of things. And I know that he's behind the camera. He's doing the camera work. He's being recorded, but I know he hands it off to an intern he trained on how to do all the post production and get it up online. And so once you eliminate that part and you move it over here, then that eliminates a lot of it. Like right now, I'm backlogged with several LinkedIn videos I want to get up because they need some editing, extra work. So I need to find someone to do that piece for me because I need to take that off my plate. Because when I have this goal of being at upcoming events and doing a quick video with a partner at the booth, and then being able to send it to someone, have it wrapped up, framed out, captioned, burned in, and get that up on LinkedIn same day at a little higher production quality if I just recorded and put it up. So I'm going to build a process where I have someone maybe off Upwork or Fiverr who I can send that to, who's ready to take those things and knock that out for $100 real quick.
You're in luck. I have
Tim,
an editor.
Oh,
She
you do?
edits this
Okay,
channel,
great.
and I'll connect you because she's actually going to watch and edit this. So I'll just say, hey, go ahead and contact Tom Watson. It's in the details.
I've got budget for it already. I've got
Oh, perfect.
approved budget. So yeah, we're
Yeah.
good to go. I'm
And
just
she's very
looking for someone.
reasonable, and she knows tech. That's why
There you go.
so
Yeah.
yes. Yeah,
Oh,
she
yeah, I
understands
want
tech. So
exactly get someone you train that you can be like. I'd be like, I just want the critical part that's like where I'm talking about this, and they literally just hand it off and have those things done. So this is great. This is why I'm on things like this. I throw things like that out. I'm recommending that to people, but I'm doing the same things that you guys are struggling with out there at your MSP.
yeah.
Literally it's a different scale on it, and maybe I'm talking a little globally, but I still have these same issues of getting the product out the door.
We all do, and that's actually getting back to yesterday's conversation with Jennifer was talking about like you may forget where to take the trash to because you're a CEO now. You can't think of
Yeah.
those things. You're so preoccupied actually running the things you're running. The other things are just really unnecessary until they're necessary. And I mean, for me, I like to outsource as much as I can. You know, I absolutely do. I
Right,
need
right,
to
right,
have.
right.
Go ahead.
Hey, Sean, you produced one of my favorite videos ever. We've talked about before. You did this video. Was it before St. Patrick's Day or something?
Uh,
Was it? It, they,
yes,
you got to send me a. Is that thing up on YouTube? I think it is. It was for the
it
tech
is.
bar.
Yeah, it's under the
It,
tech bar. Yeah,
I sent it to like 20 people. You were like strolling down. It was like a Mr. Rogers
we
start to it.
yeah we did
Yeah,
Mr. Lauder's neighborhood.
so great. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
was
came
super
down
rad.
with my cardigan on and I stretched out. It was in my foyer, and then we walked up the street, and then we
So
had
great.
Simon, and Simon's a little dude. He's like 5'5" or 6 or is he? And I made him dress up as a leprechaun. We walked down the main street of my we I called my buddy that owns a brewery right down the street, like literally right down the 2 blocks away from my house is a
Uh,
brewery, and I said, hey, can we use your brewery and we can? He goes, well, we're not open yet, but yeah, you guys can come in. So we come in the door and he's getting ready for St. Patrick's Day. So he has like all these kegs of beer stacked up. So I'm like, Simon, you're gonna get behind it and you're gonna pop up from behind the kegs with a beer and you're gonna say Happy St. Patrick's Day or some, top of the morning to you. Dude. And we walked and we were down the street, like we're on the main drag. I'm in regular clothes. I have my guy Matt that works with me. He's recording, and there's Simon with a leprechaun costume on. It was, and by the way, he's Hispanic, so a Hispanic kid looking like a leprechaun. It was the most. It was epic. People were driving by, and they're like looking at us and beeping,
I,
and we're waving. I mean, it was awesome.
I added a note
the
to make
production
sure that
quality
it's
was
in the
high
show.
too. Oh, sorry.
It was using, dude. It was the production quality was high, but we were using our phones. We used our phones for that the whole thing.
But but did you cut that up and edit that all, or did someone else do that?
Uh, Simon did actually.
Okay, it
Yeah,
was really good.
we just
That's I mean,
we just sat there. All we did was we reviewed all the content at the end, and we said we want this, this, and this. We agreed on what we wanted, and then he put it together. Yeah, it was the Tech Bar St.
We'll put a
Patrick's
link in the
episode.
description. So I made a note to do that, just so people can go watch it.
Yes, dude, it was great. It was yeah, it was something.
I don't know. We all need to conspire for Halloween for sure. I mean, we all got ideas and stuff like that. I mean,
Dude,
I'm not going to be creative. I'm going to be Wolverine again. So,
well,
but
you can
You nailed
that
it.
yeah,
So,
you look good as Wolverine, dude. You probably should make that should be your non-Halloween costume. Let's be honest, like you
there's the funny
pretty
thing.
badass.
I kept it up until the middle of January, and then I fell apart. I fell apart. And I had to take some time. I gained 10 pounds. I fell apart. And I
Ah,
shaved. Once I shaved the chops off, I gained 10 pounds.
oh,
it's like you lost your mojo.
I did. It was too much.
You're like Samson with the hair. You cut your
Yeah.
hair, lost the energy. That's awesome. No, I thought, yeah, I'm always down. I wear costumes on a regular basis, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I've seen some of the
Like,
pictures with the
oh,
jackets.
dude,
You have great jackets. Yeah.
Well, we were at IT Nation Secure, and I had my Purple Rain. Uh, I got a jacket that was all because it was Prince's birthday, so it was Purple Rain Day. So I literally had my lavender Vans on, my purple sports jacket that had like bedazzled freaking Paisleys in it. Like people looked at me like they thought I was like I don't know if they thought I was a celebrity or a talk show host or I was gonna host some sort of game show where I just was not normal. Either way, people were like, "Can I get a picture with you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Like they thought I was like something. I'm like, "Yeah." Like they're like, "Look at this moron I met."
You look like it looks like the Joker from one of the Batman movies. It's kind of that kind of thing going on.
I'll take
yeah.
it,
Yeah.
dude. I like bad guys.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's important to stand out in a crowd because that's how it's a conversation starter a lot of times, doing those extra little things, putting a silly hat on, whatever it is, looking like Wolverine. It's a fun conversation starter because that sometimes is the awkward thing, especially for technical people who generally aren't social, but
Yep.
they'll go talk to the guy in the purple suit because there's some reason to go talk to the guy in the purple suit or the guy that looks like Wolverine. It became like an instant
It's
talking point.
comforting.
Yeah.
It's comforting, right? It is the it breaks the ice and it takes the pressure off of them to look like a fool because you've already done it for them. You've already taken away that part. Like, Like
You-
seriously, like when I wore my IT Nation Connect last year, I wore my Thanksgiving suit, which had turkeys on it and shit. Like it's not even a good looking suit, pants and jacket with turkeys on it, and everybody was like, "Here I am, let's go, guys." And literally, people talked to me and took pictures of me. They're like, "This is amazing." They felt comfortable. They were at ease, and I don't mind that because I mean, by the way, I buy all this stuff to embarrass my kids. It's just how funny that I can embarrass children, and I can make MSPs
Conversation
feel
for adults.
comfortable, and I can make MSPs feel comfortable. Tell me what the, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, you're right. It is great though. Like, yeah, at the booth, you'd be like have something a little wacky, be dressed a little
Hmm.
funny. I mean, yeah, it's a conversation starter.
Absolutely, it is, and it's good. It's all in good fun. It makes us part of the people.
I
Yeah,
That's probably an important part to mention, not to get segued too far, but there's times people put stuff if you are trying to be derogatory to another vendor or something like that, taken
Yes.
low, that sometimes people find really funny, and it happened within 2022, and it's not
Yep.
the way that's not the right conversation starter. So for a little tip for someone goes, "I wanna be weird, and I wanna just make something to make fun of the competition." No, 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 not
yeah,
it
No.
yeah.
it's definitely
Now,
it
now
wasn't
you
well
can
received
make
when a
fun of
couple vendors did that.
now you can make fun of your friend that works for another vendor,
Oh,
which
yeah,
I've
yeah.
done. That's different. Like, you can do that, and but you can't make fun of the vendor, but make fun of the person because they're usually your friend, because then it becomes banter.
And to
Like
me,
like the
all
be-
pranks,
the yeah,
I just say
go
all
ahead.
pranks in my head, if they're done well, the person that was being pranked laughs with you, not awkwardly going, I guess it's funny you made fun of me. There's a way to do it. I think it's because you want a happy outcome on it. You're not there just to be mean or malicious to someone. Because
Right.
it does show some people think that's the way it needs to go. I'm like, no, 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 you can have fun with this, like Sean does, making fun of him in a purple suit or something. So it's just want to add that a little perspective there for people thinking, oh, I got an idea. I'm gonna go make fun of my competition. Like, no, don't. Not
But
like
I've
that.
already set
Yeah,
myself up for
yeah.
failure. I've already set myself up for failure by I put myself out there. I give you plenty of material to work with. Like,
Here's a good one, Sean. If you're at a trade show and there's like a break in the exhibitor hall, and you catch one of your friends like sleeping at the booth, you ever seen this one? Now it's okay to take a picture of them and send it to them, or maybe one of the other coworkers
yes,
they work with
but
well.
don't publicly.
You can't put it on LinkedIn. You can't do that.
No, no, not at all. I
It's
mean,
a group chat thing.
if they approve it, then you can. But that's still, yeah, even then, it's still not good.
Although I'll tell you what, they after Kaseya, the morning after they rented out the Hikes and nightclub and had a huge party there, open bar, and then a 3 hour after party by Threat Locker. The next morning, I was at the booth at 7:45 a.m. 80% of the booths were abandoned until 10 a.m.
That's pretty
And
common.
I was
That's
like, I mean, but I'll tell you what, some guy MSC was walking around looking for someone to talk to, and I was there. Or
I was
I
there.
was I was there. 4,000 seat license closed. Boom, right there. But
That's awesome.
yeah,
That
but
is
I didn't.
awesome.
I did take some pictures of those booths. I haven't embarrassed anyone yet, but I've got empty booths with a timestamp.
That's that's awesome. That's awesome. So, okay, so we have to get back on track a little bit here because we have
Yeah.
questions that we've asked me a very little time. So let's start with product. What product does not exist today or service that should exist in our space?
You know, I was just got these questions before we started, but what came to mind that is on my mind is that, and I especially noticed now I've moved strong into the cybersecurity spaces. We've got so many different vendors that have one product, one SKU, and I just don't see how often that works very well. I think that most MSPs would like to, or internal IT partners would like to go somewhere where they can get multiple SKUs. So I think what's missing is bringing a lot more of these titles under one sphere, or companies that work together where you can interact with them and they bundle their services, or they work together and the integrations are there. I just see a lot of segmentation, particularly in the cybersecurity space, when it comes to the
Sure.
products and the needs.
So almost like a better aggregator, maybe an aggregation product.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't think I would want
I
to buy
agree.
them from all these different places.
Sure.
It's a challenge because this is a common MSP term. What's your stack? And it's because there's this. I glued together 30 things that I offer to my clients, and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
right. It is, and it's one of the challenges of running an MSP is figuring out which gets to make the list, what doesn't get to make the list, when you should switch one of those components out. Yeah, it does make it kind of challenging doing it. Yeah, I agree. A better way to look at that and also see how the vendors are integrated together or where they
So
cross over.
you
So
need a
I
Home
just threw an
Depot.
idea out there. Someone can build this.
You need a Home Depot of technology.
Oh yeah, one stop
I mean,
place.
yeah, right. I mean, that's what you need. You need a Home Depot where you go in. If you're going to build a home, you know that you need all these different things to build a home between plumbing, electrical work, screws, bolts, wood, whatever it may be, right? And when you go in there, you just look at the aisles and they have everything from all different companies. Home Depot doesn't manufacture anything; they manufacture the venue.
But yeah, I think that's where things like the marketplace ConnectWise has coming in, and then some of the distributors, packs, and other ones where MSPs with all of the different licenses needed and vendors needed, you end up in this situation where you're just making that more manageable because I don't know how you focus. That's the thing I wonder these days is how do you focus on growing your business and the regular operations when you are just dealing with this vendor situation over here with 30 vendors. I mean, that I would be looking everywhere I could to consolidate that in some way and reduce that because I'm imagining the administrative time involved with that is huge.
Yes. Well, and there's
Absolutely.
another company just managing all the billing for the vendors. So think about that.
So
So
that's
now you
how
have two. Yeah, you have two separate components. It's still no matter what, right?
there's
Yeah.
another layer. They keep adding layers to this that I'm like,
There.
Jesus. Yeah.
Well, that's well. So I don't foresee us ever getting away from that, just because product products are built for product market fit based off of specific individuals, right? It's like, hey, we need to solve this problem, whatever this is, and they go and they work on that. And larger companies, they don't have this today, and they'll look to consume it, like ConnectWise does all the time, right? They look at companies that make sense to buy because they want to fill their stack. They
Right.
want to do more and try to be as holistic as possible. But with especially with, I mean, I'm in the cloud cafe with the cloud being the world that it is now. There's so many more people that can develop on top of this now. So you have so many different people working on so many different things. And I don't know that it's ever going to be a place. You're never going to be able to have an Amazon of us.
Right.
Maybe you will to some degree.
I,
But you can't have a complete Amazon where you can make it a one-stop shop where I can find what I want, I can pay for it. Also, because don't forget, you're from the vendor's perspective, and Tom Lawrence, I'm telling you this more than Tom Watson. You have two ways of doing things. You're either selling to or selling through, right?
Yeah.
And those
Right.
two things change the entire dynamic of the relationship, and that's the problem. That's why Home Depot works, because they're always just selling to. They,
Yeah.
they don't care what you're doing once you buy the stuff and leave the store.
Right.
You already bought it. The game, it's the end of the game, for them. So we're up for these companies, especially because the complexity of things. How many things have you worked on, Tom Lawrence, that you know that you learned took a long time to learn, and how many people really know as much as you do about that, right?
right.
That's the difference. When back to building a house, typically people worked in a union or worked for some business, and they know how to go build. They know how to do electrical work. They learned it somewhere. Home Depot isn't responsible for teaching you that shit. So that's the difference. I mean, I just don't see it ever really. I don't think it's ever gonna be that way. And
But then someone has an idea that we didn't see. That's why we haven't built the product. And we go, was in front of all of us. We had this idea on this business technicalities that we did back in July of 2022. And this guy in 2023 built it.
yes, I know. Well,
He
the
found the
aggregating.
blind spot.
Well, they've been trying to do a CPQ for how long? CPQ is like the Bigfoot of the world. Like everybody's like, I get this way to do CPQ generations, and it's gonna be amazing. I've never seen one work ever. I see bits and pieces work, but I've never seen it work based off of what they said the concept was supposed to be and how it's supposed to solve all the problems. Tom Watson, have you ever seen it? Have you seen
Not
a
yet.
CPQ? I haven't.
No.
I see companies that are dedicated to CPQs and have softwares for CPQ engines, and I still don't see it work with any vendor and partner. I see it work on some pieces, but not holistically.
Nope. So we got time for the other question that
Oh
Sean likes
yes,
to ask.
the main question of the day, Tom Watson. What is your love language?
I'm not even sure exactly what that means.
It's okay. So, and that's fair. I told Sean this, and some people who have read the book, it's a relationship book, and usually, couples read it, and it helps them figure out what each other like. There's a list of these love languages, and I said, not everyone's read the book, Sean. Sean's like, of course they have. I'm
What
like,
book is
no.
it?
Love
What
language.
is actually the name of the book? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
What's your love language? Or so there's like 5 different ones and it kind of comes back to your currency even too. It's kind of like, what makes you feel best and makes you feel loved? Is it like having gift spot for you, words of affirmation, touching? And that's what it's for couples to read. But we only came up with this because
Okay.
Jay McBain
I
brought
got
it
it.
to our attention.
Yeah, no, I would say for me, I have since going back to my teens, I have always volunteered in some way, and I like that. I like to go and do work and give something away for free with no expectation of receiving something back. I
No,
just I just enjoy that. I get so I my big hobby outside of like working out and stuff like that is gardening, vegetable gardening. I've been vegetable gardening since I was a child. Very uniquely, I grew up on a property where I had my grandparents on my mother's side lived on one side of the property, and my grandmother on my father's side lived on the other side of the property, and they both had gardens. They put us to work, so I learned very young, and I still have big vegetable gardens. But I currently volunteer for the last 3 years in the George C. Marshall's a vegetable garden in the home he owned in the town I live in. He was the guy who ran all of World War II, Eisenhower's boss, and I help maintain his vegetable garden the way it was when he was alive, and then we give all of that food away to a hunger relief program. And I don't know, it's like the most satisfying volunteer work that work is for me, because I do that work, I give to someone else, I'm out there with people working, and then it's like I walk away from it, and there's no big expectations on me, and it does something. It's physical, it's outdoors, and it gives back to the community. And I don't know what it is, but I think at some point when my days in IT are done, I'll do something more on in that front, volunteering, giving back, and probably more in the activism area.
no, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's
And it's a good answer, and I like that. It's different 'cause it's like servitude and things like that. And I think you see those pictures pop up every now and then of Jimmy Carter. Like, being a president is a
Yeah,
really, really hard job. You know what he wants to do now? Swing a hammer and pull nails. He's like, what board goes where? That's all the decision I have to make. I'm just gonna keep hammering. And I like
right.
that. It is you're giving back to the community in a very direct way. And it's a really good feeling you get from it.
It's
Just
simpler too.
give
It's a
without,
simpler way to
yeah,
work.
yeah. I
people
love it.
people are happy you showed up. They're not, the demands aren't there in terms of like, they're just like, wow, you're giving your time. It's not like you don't feel like that pressure coming down on you, and you're not worried about getting a check out of it either. And I think once you remove that, there's just great true gratification that comes out of giving back, and like you said, that servitude piece.
Yeah,
well,
I like that.
and I think the other gratification piece for me is being able to set up to complete a project in front of my face
Yeah,
within so some instant gratification, because how many things do we work on that takes years? Back to Tom Lawrence in 5 years and 25 million videos later, right? It's like it takes a long time. And even once you hit there, you find things you can improve on. But if you go build a shed, you build a shed that day, you get to look at the shed that day. There's no improvements. I mean, you can say, "Oh, I'm going to paint the trim or something," but realistically, actually, there's something very, very rewarding in a simple project. And it's not even that simple. I shouldn't say that, but it's not a long-term, a long, ongoing project that you might see the end of and come to fruition, which never happens ever. It's never finished. I swear to
Yeah.
God, nothing's ever finished. I don't know. Okay, good. So, Tom, in closing here, as far as a couple of things, you mentioned you're going to IT Nation Connect. Anywhere else that we can find you?
yeah. I'd just like to cover a couple things. One thing, Titan HQ. I'm channel chief over there, and I'm going to be at some upcoming events. I'm going to be at Build It in Jersey City
Yep.
at the end of this month. I think it's the 26th through 29th or something like
Of
that.
July
Um,
2022. So
yeah, and then I'm going to be at CompTIA ChannelCon in Chicago the week after that. I'll see you,
Whoop,
Tom Lawrence,
whoop.
there. Are you going to be there?
yeah.
Tom, you're
Oh
there?
yeah,
Yep.
Oh,
yeah.
we
Chicago.
will hang. There's going to be a rooftop party. We'll be hanging at that. But also want to tell you, come by the booth, either event. Real quick, I don't really pitch that much. It's a human layer of cybersecurity, DNS filtering, and security awareness training. We've got spam, and we have archiving, and we have encryption. So a nice suite of tools. Kind of goes. I went there because I like the idea of multiple tools that an MSP could use under one roof That's all I'll give to you. If you want to come out and talk to me about it, cool. If you want to talk about how I can help your business, talk about some marketing, I'd love to talk about that as well. So hit me up.
And gardening tips too.
Yeah, gardening tips,
Garden.
absolutely. I'll bring. And if you come to the DC area, I will give you tomatoes.
That's a selling point right there.
I'm like 3.5 hours from you, dude.
Sean's
I
having
know.
tomato run. And
Three
you'll
and a
be
half
IT
hours.
Nation in November, right?
Yes.
IT
you
Nation
said that.
November, yes.
Yep.
Uh,
Perfect.
so, and we can find you on LinkedIn. I don't know you
Yep.
have
We'll
anything
leave
else
that down in
really.
the description below.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time with us, Tom. This was great. This is a lot of fun, and hopefully everyone got to learn something. And we'll have you on again, I'm sure. There's always more to
Right.
talk about. Maybe if a year from now, after you invented the product that doesn't exist today. So
That'd be great.
Tom's like, I figured it out after this interview. All right, thanks
Uh-huh.
everyone.
All right.
All right, take
Thank
care.
Thanks a lot, guys.